114 Raising Personal Grievance 160. Employment Relations Act 2000. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018. 10. 115 Further provision regarding exceptional circumstances under Section 114. 161. 116 Special provision where sexual harassment alleged 161. 117 Sexual or racial harassment by person other than employer 161. 118 Sexual or racial harassment after steps not taken to prevent repetition. 162. 119 Presumption in discrimination cases 162. 120 Statement of reasons for dismissal 163. 121 Statements privileged 163. 122 Nature of personal grievance may be found to be of different type from that alleged. 163. Remedies in relation to personal grievances. 123 Remedies 163. 124 Remedy reduced if contributing behavior by employee 164. 125 Remedy of reinstatement 165. 126 Provisions applying if reinstatement ordered 165. 127 Authority may order interim reinstatement 165. 128 Reimbursement 166. Disputes. 129 Person bound by, or party to, employment agreement may pursue dispute under this Act. 166. Recovery of wages. 130 Wages and time record 166. 131 Arrears 168. 132 Failure to keep or produce records 168. Penalties. 133 Jurisdiction concerning penalties 169. 133A Matters authority and court to have regard to in determining amount of penalty. 169. 134 Penalties for breach of employment agreement 170. 134A Penalty for obstructing or delaying authority investigation 170. 135 Recovery of penalties 170. 135A Chief Executive or Labor Inspector may enforce payment of penalty. 172. 136 Application of penalties recovered 172. Compliance orders. 137 Power of authority to order compliance 172. 138 Further provisions relating to compliance order by authority 173. 139 Power of court to order compliance 174. 140 Further provisions relating to compliance order by court 175. 140A Sanctions for breaches without compliance order 176. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018 Employment Relations Act 2000. 11. 140A Compliance Order in relation to disclosure of employee transfer costs information and individualized employee information. 177. Enforcement of order. 141 Enforcement of order 178. Limitation period for actions other than personal grievances. 142 Limitation period for actions other than personal grievances 179. Part 9A. Additional provisions relating to enforcement of employment standards. 142A Object of this Part 179. Declarations of breach. 142B Court may make declarations of breach 180. 142C Purpose and effect of declarations of breach 180. 142D What declaration of breach must state 181. Pecuniary penalty orders. 142e Pecuniary Penalty Orders 181. 142f Matters Court to have regard to in determining amount of pecuniary penalty. 181. 142g Maximum amount of pecuniary penalty 182. 142h Chief Executive or Labor Inspector may enforce payment of pecuniary penalty. 182. 142I Limitation period for actions for pecuniary penalty orders 182. Compensation orders. 142J Court may make compensation orders 183. 142K Application of Section 132 of this Act and Section 83 of Holidays Act 2003. 183. 142L Terms of Compensation Orders 183. Banning Orders. 142M Banning Orders 184. 142N Terms of Banning Order 184. 142O Duration of Banning Order 185. 142P Variation of Banning Order 185. 142Q General Provisions for Banning Orders 185. 142R Offense to Breach Banning Order 186. Standard of Proof. 142 Standard of Proof 186. Interrelationship of Orders. 142T More than one kind of order may be made for same breach 186. Employment Relations Act 2000. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018. 12. 142 Pecuniary penalty and criminal sanction or other penalty for same conduct. 186. Insurance against pecuniary penalties unlawful and of no effect. 142v Insurance against pecuniary penalties unlawful 187. Liability of persons involved in breach, bodies corporate, and principals. 142w Involvement in breaches 187. 142x Person involved in breach liable to penalty 188. 142y When person involved in breach liable for default in payment of wages or other money due to employee. 188. 142z State of mind of directors, employees, or agents attributed to body, corporate or other principal. 189. 142za Conduct of directors, employees, or agents attributed to body, corporate or other principal. 189. Defenses relating to breach of minimum entitlement provisions. 142zb Proceedings in which defenses apply 190. 142zc Defenses for person in breach 190. 142zd Defenses for person involved in breach 191. Part 10. Institutions. 143 Object of this Part 191. Mediation Services. 144 Mediation Services 192. 144a Dispute Resolution Services 192. 145 Provision of Mediation Services 193. 146 Access to Mediation Services 193. 147 Procedure in relation to mediation services 193. 148 Confidentiality 194. 148a Certain entitlements may be subject to mediation and agreed terms of settlement. 195. 149 Settlements 196. 149a Recommendation to parties 197. 150 Decision by authority of parties 198. 150a Payment on resolution of problem 198. 151 Enforcement of terms of settlement agreed or authorized 199. 152 Mediation services not to be questioned as being inappropriate 199. 153 Independence of mediation personnel 200. 154 Other mediation services 200. 155 Arbitration 200. Employment Relations Authority 156 Employment Relations Authority 201. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018 Employment Relations Act 2000. 13. 157 Role of Authority 201. 158 Lodging of Applications 201. 159 Duty of Authority to consider mediation 201. 159A When mediation in relation to breach of employment standards is appropriate. 202. 159A Duty of Authority to prioritize previously mediated matters 203. 160 Powers of Authority 203. 161 Jurisdiction 204. 162 Application of law relating to contracts 206. 163 Restriction on authorities' power in relation to collective agreements 207. 164 Application to individual employment agreements of law relating to contracts 207. 165 Other provisions relating to investigations of authority 208. 166 Membership of authority 208. 166 A Role of Chief of Authority 208. 166b Delegation of Chief of Authority's functions, duties, or powers 209. 167 Appointment of members 209. 168 Oath of Office 209. 169 Term of Office 210. 170 Vacation of Office 210. 171 Salaries and Allowances 210. 172 Temporary Appointments 211. 172A Reports from Inspector General of Intelligence and Security 211. 173 Procedure 212. 173A Recommendation to Parties 212. 174 Authority must give oral determination or oral indication of preliminary findings wherever practicable. 213. 174A Oral determinations 213. 174B Oral indication of preliminary findings 214. 174C Authority may reserve determination 215. 174D Authority may determine matter without holding investigation. Meeting. 215. 174E Content of written determinations 215. 175 Seal of Authority 216. 176 Protection of Members of Authority, etc. 216. 177 Referral of Question of Law 216. 178 Removal to Court 217. 178A Challenge in respect of dismissal of frivolous or vexatious proceedings 218. 179 Challenges to determinations of authority 218. 179A Limitation on challenges to certain determinations of authority 219. 179B Limitations on consideration by employment court of matters arising under Part 6A. 219. Employment Relations Act 2000. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018. 14. 179C Limitations on consideration by employment court of matters arising under Section 30D of Parental Leave and Employment Protection Act 1987. 220. 180 Election not to operate as stay 220. 181 Report in relation to good faith 220. 182 Hearings 221. 183 Decision 221. 184 Restriction on Review 222. 185 Staff of Authority 222. Employment Court. 186 Employment Court 223. 187 Jurisdiction of Court 223. 188 Role in relation to jurisdiction 224. 188A When mediation in relation to breach of employment standards is appropriate. 225. 189 Equity and Good Conscience 225. 190 Application of Other Provisions 226. 191 Other Provisions relating to Proceedings of Court 226. 192 Application to Collective Agreements of Law relating to Contracts 226. 193 Proceedings not to be questioned 227. 194 Application for Review 227. 194A Application for Review by Certain Employees 228. 195 Non-attendance or refusal to cooperate 228. 196 Contempt of Court or Authority 229. 197 Constitution of Court 229. 198 Registrar and Officers of Court 230. 198 A Registrar may take affidavit 230. 199 Seal of Court 230. Judges of the Court. 200 Appointment of Judges 230. 200 A Judge not to undertake other employment or hold other office 231. 200 A Protocol relating to activities of judges 231. 200 A Judges act on full-time basis but may be authorized to act part-time 231. 201 Seniority 232. 202 Senior Judge to act as Chief Judge in certain circumstances 232. 203 Judges to have immunities of High Court Judges 233. 204 Protection of Judges against removal from office 233. 205 Age of retirement 233. 206 Salaries and allowances of judges 233. 207 Appointment of acting judges 234. 208 Sittings 235. 209 Full Court 235. 210 Quorum and Decision of Court 236. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018 Employment Relations Act 2000. 15. 211 Statement of Case for Court of Appeal 236. 212 Court may make rules 236. Review of Proceedings. 213 Review of Proceedings before Court 237. Appeals. 214 Appeals on Question of Law 237. 214A Appeals against decisions under Part 9A 238. 214A Appeals to Supreme Court on Question of Law in Exceptional Circumstances. 239. 215 Court of Appeal may refer appeals back for reconsideration 239. Special provision in respect of appeals. 216 Obligation to have regard to special jurisdiction of court 240. Other appeals. 217 Appeal to Court of Appeal against conviction, Oregon order or sentence. In respect of contempt of court. 240. 218 Appeal to Court of Appeal in respect of order on application for review. 240. Miscellaneous provisions. 219 Validation of informal proceedings, etc. 241. 220 Documents under seal and certain signatures to be judicially noticed. 241. 221 Joinder, waiver, and extension of time 241. 222 Application of Official Information Act 1982 242. 222A Information regarding reserved judgments 242. 222B Recusal Guidelines 242. 222C Judge may make order restricting commencement or continuation of proceeding. 242. 222D Grounds for making Section 222C Order 243. 222E Terms of Section 222C Order 243. 222F Procedure and Appeals relating to Section 222C Orders 243. Part 11. General Provisions. Chief Executive. 223AAA Functions of Chief Executive 244. Labor Inspectors. 223 Labor Inspectors 245. 223A Functions of Labor Inspector 245. Enforceable Undertakings. 223B Enforceable Undertakings 246. 223C Enforcement of Undertakings 246. Employment Relations Act 2000. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018. 16. Improvement Notices. 223D Labor Inspector may issue Improvement Notice 246. 223E Objection to Improvement Notice 247. 223F Penalty 248. 223G Withdrawal of Improvement Notice 248. Demand Notices. 224 Demand Notice 248. 225 Objections to Demand Notice 249. 226 Authority to determine Objection 249. 227 Withdrawal of Demand Notice 250. Actions to recover wages or holiday pay, etc. 228 Actions by Labor Inspector 250. Powers. 229 Powers of Labor Inspectors 250. 230 Entry of Dwelling Houses 252. 231 Entry Warrant 252. 232 Compilation of Wages and Time Record 252. 233 Obligations of Labor Inspectors 253. 233A Obligation of Labor Inspector and Department not to disclose information. 254. 233B Information Sharing 254. 234 Circumstances in which officers, directors, or agents of company liable for minimum wages and holiday pay repealed. 255. 235 Obstruction 255. Infringement Offenses. 235A Interpretation 255. 235B Infringement Offenses 256. 235C Infringement Notices 256. 235D Procedural Requirements for Infringement Notices 256. 235E Infringement Fees 257. 235F Payment of Infringement Fee 257. 235G Infringement Fee and Penalty not payable for the same conduct 257. Representation. 236 Representation 257. Miscellaneous Provisions. 237 Regulations 259. 237A Chief Executive may approve Forms 260. 237A Amendments to Schedule 1A repealed 260. 237B Regulations providing for waiver, etc., of fees 261. 237C Postponement of fees 261. 237D Reviews of decisions of registrars concerning fees 261. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018 Employment Relations Act 2000. 17. 238 No contracting out. 262. 239 New Schedule 3 substituted in Police Act 1958. 262. 240 Consequential amendments. 262. 241 Repeals. 262. Transitional provisions. 242 Enforcement of existing individual employment contracts. 262. 243 Enforcement of existing collective employment contracts. 263. 244 Existing collective employment contracts and collective bargaining. 263. 245 Existing procedures in relation to disputes and personal grievances. 263. 246 Expiration of existing collective employment contracts. 263. 247 Existing proceedings. 264. 248 Existing causes of action. 264. 249 Employment Tribunal. 265. 250 Exercise of powers of Employment Tribunal after January 31, 2001. 265. 251 Exercise of powers of authority before close of January 31, 2001. 266. 252 Exercise by authority of powers of tribunal after January 31, 2001. 267. 253 Existing appointments. 267. 254 Application, savings, and transitional provisions relating to amendments to Act. 267. Schedule 1A. Application, savings, and transitional provisions relating to amendments made to this Act after January 1, 2013. 268. Schedule 1. Essential services. 272. Schedule 1A. Employees to whom Subpart 1 of Part 6A applies. 275. Schedule 1B. Code of Good Faith for Public Health Sector. 276. Schedule 1C. Code of Good Faith for Employment Relationships in relation to provision of services by police. 285. Schedule 2. Provisions having effect in relation to employment relations. Authority. 291. Schedule 3. Provisions having effect in relation to employment court. 297. Schedule 4. New Schedule 3 of Police Act 1958. 303. Schedule 5. Enactments amended. 304. Employment Relations Act 2000. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018. 18. Schedule 6. Enactments repealed. 308. 1 Title. This Act is the Employment Relations Act 2000. 2 Commencement. This Act comes into force on October 2, 2000. Part 1. Key Provisions. 3 Object of this Act. The object of this Act is a. To build productive employment relationships through the promotion of good faith in all aspects of the employment environment and of the employment relationship. I. By recognizing that employment relationships must be built not only on the implied mutual obligations of trust and confidence, but also on a legislative requirement for good faith behavior, and 2. By acknowledging and addressing the inherent inequality of power in employment relationships, and 3. By promoting collective bargaining, and 4. By protecting the integrity of individual choice, and by promoting mediation as the primary problem-solving mechanism other than for enforcing employment standards, and 6. By reducing the need for judicial intervention, and to promote the effective enforcement of employment standards, in particular by conferring enforcement powers on labor inspectors, the authority, and the court, and b. to promote observance in New Zealand of the principles underlying International Labour Organization Convention 87 on Freedom of Association, and Convention 98 on the right to organize and bargain collectively. Section 3, A amended, on December 1, 2004, by Section 4, 1, of the Employment Relations Amendment Act, No. 2, 2004, 2004 No. 86. Section 3, A, I substituted, on December 1, 2004, by Section 4, 2, of the Employment Relations Amendment Act, No. 2, 2004, 2004 No. 86. Reprinted as at January 1, 2018 Employment Relations Act 2000 Part 1 S3. 19. Section 3, A, 2 amended, on December 1, 2004, by Section 4, 3, of the Employment Relations Amendment Act, No. 2, 2004, 2004 No. 86. Section 3, A, V replaced, on April 1, 2016, by Section 4, 1, of the Employment Relations Amendment Act 2016, 2016 No. 9. Section 3, of inserted, on April 1, 2016, by Section 4, 2, of the Employment Relations Amendment Act 2016, 2016 No. 9. Good faith employment relations. For parties to employment relationship to deal with each other in good faith. 1. The parties to an employment relationship specified in subsection 2. A. Must deal with each other in good faith, and b. Without limiting paragraph, A. Must not, whether directly or indirectly, do anything I. To mislead or deceive each other, or 2. That is likely to mislead or deceive each other. 1a. The duty of good faith in subsection 1. A. Is wider in scope than the implied mutual obligations of trust and confidence, and b. Requires the parties to an employment relationship to be active and constructive in establishing and maintaining a productive employment relationship in which the parties are, among other things, responsive and communicative, and c. Without limiting paragraph, b. Requires an employer who is proposing to make a decision that will, or is likely to, have an adverse effect on the continuation of employment of one or more of his or her employees to provide to the employees affected I. Access to information, relevant to the continuation of the employee's employment, about the decision, and 2. An opportunity to comment on the information to their employer before the decision is made. 1b, however, subsection 1a, c, does not require an employer to provide access to confidential information. A. That is about an identifiable individual other than the affected employee. If providing access to that information would involve the unwarranted disclosure of the affairs of that other individual. B. That is subject to a statutory requirement to maintain confidentiality. C. Where it is necessary, for any other good reason, to maintain the confidentiality of the information, for example, to avoid unreasonable prejudice to the employer's commercial position. 1c. To avoid doubt.